Welcome back. You're watching the Global Business Report here on Arise News. The Nigerian Air Force and Nigerian Communications Satellite Limited have entered into a strategic alliance aimed at advancing operational effectiveness, sovereignty and sustainability through space-based innovations. Now, this was during a courtesy visit by Jane Egerton-Idehen, who is Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of NIGCOMSAT, to the Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Hassan Bala Abubakar, at the NAF headquarters in Abuja on Wednesday, August 7th, 2025. Discussions during the meeting focused on leveraging NIGCOMSAT's satellite capabilities to enhance the Nigerian Air Force's mission-critical functions, particularly in the areas of secure communication, real-time intelligence, and surveillance. Jane Egerton-Idehen, who is Managing Director of Nigerian Communications Satellite Limited, joins me now to discuss this further. Good morning to you, Jane, and many thanks for joining us on the Global Business Report. To discuss this further. Good morning to you, Jane, and many thanks for joining us. I hope you can hear me clearly, Jane.
Yes, I can hear you, Abby. Good morning. I said it's nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're most welcome. It's a pleasure to have you as well. Let's get into it. So the partnership between the Nigerian Air Force and NIGCOMSAT have been described as a milestone for national security. From your perspective, what strategic impact will this collaboration have on defense systems?
Thank you for that question, Abby. So we are excited at the partnership, not just with the Nigerian Air Force, but we are excited at the partnership with the Nigerian defense sector as a whole. Because one of the great things with partnering with a government agency like NIGCOMSAT is the fact that we will provide national sovereignty, we will provide security to whatever solutions we bring, and as well as sustainability or meeting their communications need. I'm proud to say that this partnership we're having, we see the nation actually leapfrogging to use its own asset to solve its own problem. It's just not the Air Force, because the Air Force is a great segue of how we are helping the defense sector. But I'm also saying we're also partnering with the Navy, because earlier in the week, I was at NNS Kano, the naval ship in Lagos here, where we are also providing communication services for. So we're excited because this is actually going to show that most of the investments of the nation in providing security or communication services is actually reaping value or bringing value to the government agencies. So to address whatever concerns or needs they have when it comes to communications, security, going local and using assets from its own agencies or country is a great way to go about it.
Right, it sounds certainly quite exciting and also sounds quite turnkey operationally. But as we know, Jane, internet connectivity remains a major challenge in Nigeria. How is NIGCOMSAT leveraging satellite technology to expand broadband access, particularly in underserved areas?
Thank you very much for that question. I think the data shows that in terms of broadband penetration, for Nigeria is still slightly below 50% for a nation of over 230 million. And there's been a lot of investment in trying to bridge that gap. One of the clear value, of course, during COVID, we saw that it was really important to bridge that gap, that digital divide, because we're seeing that people or entities or enterprises in rural areas were cut off from services. And satellite connectivity, we know, is one of those solutions you can use to bridge that. How are we going about it? We've started a lot of projects to help address this. I think one of the key projects I would say we are very proud of that we started, which was driven by the Federal Ministry of Communication, Innovation and Digital Economy under the guidance of the Honorable Minister, Dr. Bosu Tijani, is the Project 774, where we are providing broadband access to all 774 local government secretariats of the country. We've done 45, we've gone to 8 states, so that's one of the ways we are bridging that. We're also doing solutions like broadcasting as well. It's important to note that one of the great things with satellite technology is that even though we do have the terrestrial, which is the normal connectivity methods, we've seen that over time, the very deep rural areas are sometimes cut off with some of the standard solutions. And that's where satellite comes in. In those very deep rural areas, where maybe probably laying fiber to where these locations are starts to be difficult or complex. So think about a village with only 50 people. To lay fiber all the way from the urban areas to that village with only 50 people might not be viable for the private sector or for the mobile operators. But with satellite connectivity, you can localize that connectivity and provide that solution for that village. A great thing as well is that in very complex situations, satellite becomes to show great value. So in putting connectivity in complex places like on a hill, on a moving train, on a moving plane, on a moving ship, on a moving vehicle, satellite has shown great value. So we're excited. We've started the journey. This is just the beginning. Project 774 is just one of the projects. We're working with a lot of states as well to see how we can help bridge that divide for them, especially in the rural areas. We're working with farms as well because we've noticed as well that such enterprises and sectors like large farms tend to exist in places where there's really no connectivity, and these farms want to digitize so they can do precision agriculture or smart agriculture, use IoT devices. And satellite connectivity is one of the ways we can provide that connectivity for them to be able to digitize or provide smart agriculture. So we're looking forward to it. Health sector, we're doing the same, where we have primary healthcare sectors, healthcare centers in very rural areas. And of course, the health sector wants to benefit from using e-health solution, telemedicine solution. How do you bridge that? If you can provide connectivity for the primary healthcare centers in those rural areas, we would allow them use these digital services or applications they want to use. So we're excited. We've started the work. It's still an uphill task, but we are very excited that we have started the work.
A very robust plan. And for those who don't probably understand the complexity of its nature, let's get a broader view of the status quo now. What is the current state of Nigeria's satellite communications industry? And where do you see the biggest business opportunities emerging as well?
So I'm proud to say that Nigeria was one of the African nations that took that leadership role to launch a communication satellite. We started off in 2006. We're one of the few, I think out of the 54 countries we have in Africa, only about 16 of them do have satellite. And Nigeria is the only national entity in the entire West Africa that has a communication satellite, and the first few in Africa to leapfrog and take this step. So we've already gone ahead to show that we are very good in taking leadership in these type of tech services. So for us, the satellite services we have launched, I think what is really important is how we can utilize it to support the nation, to meet the mandate, which is to drive that broadband penetration. Satellite connectivity, though, is complex, but we have demystified it. You know, people say it's complex because you have an asset, or call it a satellite sitting somewhere in space and is able to beam on Earth and provide connectivity. But I think as a nation, we have demystified it because we have run this asset for over 14 years, providing broadband, providing broadcast, providing specialized or very specialized or complex communication services to enterprise. So I think we have shown as a nation that we are quite good at taking leadership and driving these types of sectors. So where do I see it, or where do I see it in terms of how it will go forward? I see that, first of all, we have shown that we can take leadership. And I think showing that we can take leadership is the second thing, which is really important, is ensuring that we meet the mandate for this asset, which we have so invested in a nation. One of the ways we can do that is really deliver that broadband penetration, which the minister is pushing for, especially for rural areas. So we want to see more use cases where NIGECOMSAT works with state governments, work with different federal ministry, work with the private sector to help to bridge that digital divide, to provide connectivity in very rural areas, in very complex cases, because we already have the asset. This is something most of the nations or most of the countries in Africa are looking for, and we already have it. So it's really more important now that we use this asset and meet that mandate.
Right, now that extensive reach is certainly very important. Now, many countries are using satellite solutions, as we know, to complement terrestrial networks. How do you see the balance between fiber, mobile and satellite evolving in Nigeria?
So I think one of the things that we have done is leapfrog, because while most countries started with copper or terrestrial using fiber, we actually really went up forward with mobile about 20 years ago. We've also shown that we can do fiber. And one of the great things is earlier in the year, the minister, Honorable Minister Dr. Boso Tijani, did announce our ambitious project, which is Project Bridge, which is to lay over 90 kilometers of fiber across the nation. It's an ambitious project because, I think that's the biggest of its kind in Africa. Just think about it. Because Nigeria has a lot of submarine cables that bring internet connectivity to the seashore, but our biggest problem is how do we take it to the people, not just in the cities, everywhere. And fiber as a connectivity medium has the ability to give you lots of capacity. We've shown with the growing trends that applications, users, enterprises are demanding the use of more data. So fiber is a great solution. Mobile is a great solution. But we know with technology, solutions are sometimes layered because there will be use cases where each of these solutions I've mentioned will show their strength. So using fiber, using mobile, and using satellite is so key for Nigeria. Think about the size of the nation, the amount of people, and we have been going at it for decades. So layering all these solutions, because each of them, like I mentioned, the value for satellite or mobile, because then you can take this connectivity anywhere you go. Fiber, you can do heavy, large capacity. We can even fast-track development because it's not just now having mobile, which is connectivity on the move. You can have it in your houses. And if you can have it in your houses, it means you can connect more devices. So I think the ability, which is what I believe the administration is doing, to take all the solutions and use this to fast-track digital access is so important, because once we do that, we can achieve our ambitious goal, which is to achieve more than 70% of broadband penetration in Nigeria. Then everybody, that school teacher that is in a rural place that wants to log on, use digital services for his educational purpose, that student that wants to do remote work in somewhere remote, log on, be able to work from where is the trader that wants to run fintech services in a rural part of Nigeria. Wherever they are, they will be able to have access and use the services. People don't have to come to the cities to use the services. People don't only have to exist in the cities to benefit from the value of digital access. I think that's what we do when we have all the solutions together trying to drive their agenda in Nigeria.
Right, it certainly sounds like quite the telecommunications utopia. And one would imagine that this is certainly a rather capital-intensive project as well. But as we know, access to financing is often a barrier within the technology sector. What can be done to encourage more investment into Nigeria's satellite and space ecosystem?
Thank you for that question. I would like to frame it slightly different. I think funding normally shows up if value is created. We know that investors will always put their money where they see value. In terms of tech, we have shown time and time again, if you look at the startup ecosystem or the startup tech ecosystem, there are some sectors that have vibrantly driven investor funds in Africa and in Nigeria. Take, for example, fintech. So once we are able to show value in solving a problem, you see the funding will normally follow suit. People will invest their money where they believe there's a problem to be solved or can be solved. And when it comes to satellite, I think it's the same. Now we are beginning to see the value. We're talking about it. We're showing the use cases. It does make a strong case for investment in satellite. We've seen a lot of investment, especially outside Africa, from the private sector into satellite. In the past, a satellite had been something that was just left for the governments, and governments that couldn't afford it could not invest. Now we're seeing a change with private investors coming in the entire value chain, not just even to man or run satellites, even launch satellites. We're seeing private sector coming. So it has shown that there's great value for this technology even now. We don't have to think that, oh, this was something we could use years ago. They've shown great value for it now. I think if there's great value and investors see that, then they would invest. If there's great value and the government see it, they would invest. If there's great value, private sector will even invest. So this is exciting times. I think we are showing that there's great value, and that will in turn attract investors, not just for the upstream, which is operators, but even for downstream, because we are seeing that also play out in the startup ecosystem. One of the things we are doing as NIGECOMSAT is that we have started an accelerator program working with startups in the space or satellite sector in Nigeria. I'm sure people will be thinking, oh, do we have that? Yes, we do. Last year, we worked with 25 startups in our accelerator program. This year, we're working with 35. And we are seeing that once the startups can show this use case of using the technology to solve problems in difficult to reach places where people don't have access, we're able to help them, put them in front of investors that would invest in those startups. So I think once we can show great value, we can show the problems we are solving, we can show that there's value even for the investors, we're able to attract funding.
Right, value is certainly very key. And I'm glad that you also touch on the role of startups there, because that cannot be underestimated in any way. Let's look at cybersecurity and data protection, which are critical concerns in today's digital economy. What business risks do you see for satellite operators in this regard?
So technology is evolving, like we know, and with technology evolving or with anything innovative, sometimes regulation is trying to catch up. So you see cases where there's gaps. We've seen that with the social media platforms. We're seeing that with things like AI and robotics, and satellite would also be some of the things that will be affected as technology evolves. So what is more important is that we take that leadership in trying to lead by thinking of policies that would help protect our users, our enterprises, our consumers, that their data is protected, that they have a say is how this data is used, transferred, manipulated, or they get to give permission. And one of the great things that Nigeria as a nation has already taken a step forward with regulators like NCC and the National Data Protection, having the National Data Protection Act, we're already thinking ahead. You can see, even when it comes to AI, we have already gone ahead. We have already put together an AI draft strategy. We are putting together a digital economy bill. We are thinking ahead, how do we ensure that in the use of technology, in the use of these services, we consider how we regulate and create policies that will protect not just the users, but the enterprises that are involved. Something else I mentioned earlier, which I also want to enforce, is an issue of national sovereignty. And we're seeing that play time and time again in some of the things that have been happening globally. That is important that nations now know that in this current reality, data or the use of technology is an asset. So national sovereignty starts to play a role. How your data is used, who has permission. That is why it's so important when we do have government agencies like ours that have these types of technology, we go local first, or we use them first, because we are guaranteed that our security or our national sovereignty is protected, especially in sectors like the defense sector. It's so important, because when you have other operators that they are governed by laws of a different country, you do not have a say in terms of how your data is used or is perceived to be used. But think about us, a Nigerian entity owned by the Nigerian government. Definitely, our data will be protected by the laws and the rules or the policies that govern our country. So when it comes to the light of companies or enterprises that use us, we will be driven to align to those policies. So it's exciting times, because it's showing that the landscape is changing as technology is evolving, but national sovereignty is coming out to play a good role with data. So it's so important that, like you said, that policy and regulation starts to also support as technology evolves. And we see that already happening in Nigeria with entities like the National Data Protection Commission.
Security is certainly very key. And it sounds like quite a lot of work, James, that has been laid out framework-wise and operationally as well. But, you mentioned your last statement leads me to want to segue into building human capital, which, as we know, is quite key for long-term growth. How should Nigerians be preparing for its workforce to take advantage of opportunities within the satellite industry? Because it sounds like a lot of work. But for those who want to know how can they contribute to this as well, what should they know?
I like the fact you say it sounds like a lot of work. It sounds like a lot of work, but Nigeria is fortunate to have already started the work. If you look at the African countries, we are one of the very few that have really taken a stand to start the work. Definitely when it comes to technology, building, the ecosystem is important. Building enterprises or startups in it is important. Regulation policy is important. creating awareness is important. But like you said, talent is important. Investing in talent is important, not just in satellite. And I want to start by, taking it more like a triangular form to see how we are doing that at the ministry. I think one of the great things the minister, Honorable Dr. Bosu Tijani, has done when he took on the realms of that role was to create a 3MTT project. That's 3 million talents, tech talents in Nigeria, which he has been driving. And we are seeing the impact because now you go anywhere, you see people that are already invested in this program that have been trained to use different types of technology because of the program and are now empowered to empower themselves and, create job opportunities for themselves without even having to come to the cities. And that is happening at the ministry level. Now, what we are also doing, as an agency under the Federal Ministry of Communication or under Dr. Bosu Tijani's leadership, is also trying to do the same thing or something similar with the satellite services. So we started this year to do what we call visa training, where we go to states in the different regions and train youth on how to use the technology. The good thing about it is that those skill sets are transferable. And that's how tech works. So once we train you, for example, on how to install VSAT for NigComSat, it means that you can do that for any other satellite operator. You can even do it for DSTV, GoTV, any other satellite-based services. And we're already seeing impact. Earlier this year, we went to Adamawa. We trained about 200 youths. We went to Jigawa. We did the same thing. We went to Cross River. We will keep going. And we're already seeing the impact because I just give a small story about one that we did in Cross River. Just 3 days into the training, somebody had pinged me on one of the social media platforms saying he was grateful because based on that training, he had gone home that day and his neighbor had a problem with his own DSTV. And he thought, let me just give it a go and see if I can use what I just learned. And he fixed it for the neighbor and the neighbor paid him. So I'm just going to reinforce the fact that talent is important, training talent is important, especially in the tech journey. And we have started it. I know there's still more to be done. But projects like the 3MTT that is doing that on a larger scale, projects like what we're doing in NigComSat, which is doing the visa training in the region, is showing that we can do that by empowering our youth. And it doesn't have to be youths in the cities or the known states. We can go to the regions. At the end of the day, over 50% of the Nigerian population are actually youths. And that's an asset. So technology is something that is not, they are very comfortable using technology. They are one of the first uptakers for tech. Right. So I think we should ride on that strength by investing in talent.
Certainly, undoubtedly very impressive work. If you joined us midway, I've been chatting with Jane Egerton-Idehen, who is Managing Director, Nigerian Communication Satellite Limited. Jane, I want to thank you for such an insightful discussion, and many thanks for joining us, and hope we will see you again very soon. Well, that's it on the Global Business Report for now, but stay tuned to Arise News. From all of us, many thanks for your company. I am Abby Owolawi.